I would love to see you succeed in this, but I don't know if David Tepper will ever get out of your way. And I apologize that I keep going back to that well, but that's the truth. This organization cannot get better until he truly leaves the organization alone or sells this team.
Hey, I thought it was all over.
Nope. They roll coverage. Good afternoon. Well, certainly not the outcome that I was hoping for. If I could, before I even got to watch the film, if I could just talk about 3 turnovers in the teens and explosives that we gave up on the defensive side, a block punt. Those are critical factors. It flips the field. It gives them more possessions. And even when we had our chances, we didn't get our first completion for a while there. So just all around, poor execution in all phases, and particularly when you turn the ball over and you give that offense chances. And what we found out is this is a pretty good offense. And we learned a lot about ourselves today. I think a group of guys that haven't played a lot of football together, the communication, working off each other, playing those things, that's all stuff that we got to get to as we look at the film. So for me, I think, the positive I can take out of it is the way that the guys stuck together and just kept playing hard. There's nothing more I can ask for when you're, faced with a situation we're so far behind already in the first half, can we just keep playing football? And I asked them to do that, and they responded. And the defense ran and tackled the whole time at the end. The offense just played all the way through, trying to execute, until the very end of the game. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of these guys. Nobody turning on each other, none of that. Just guys that were ready to take their responsibility. And for sure, as the head coach, I got to be the first one to take responsibility and look at what we have to do going forward.
Okay, so you're obviously here because Roll Coverage is the home of Press Conference Breakdown. And I'm going to be honest, this is dismissive Dave Canales now. This is Dave Canales that immediately comes into his opening spiel, or whatever you want to call it. His little fluff moment where he's trying to just, kind of get everybody to move forwards. Here's some puffy words and let's just keep going. But if you really sit there and hear him, he immediately comes out and goes after the defense. And then when it comes to talk about the offense, he tells us that they didn't maximize on their opportunities. I'm sorry, Dave, but this offense failed because of your scheme. Last year, we literally tried to coddle Bryce so much. So this year we have done the opposite. Give him the full playbook, full everything. And that supercomputer brain looks like it was built in 1990 and trying to still make it work in 2024. He looks like a completely different quarterback than even last year. Last year, he looked more confident than he does right now. So I'm not sure if that's strictly coming from what's happening behind the scenes or if it's all coming from this moment on the field. But something has got to change, and that offense is number one. This can't be on Evero. I'm sorry. The team decided to trade away Brian Burns for nobody that would immediately impact this team. So we're not really going to talk about where this team is now until the offensive coordinator and his best bud, Brad Idzik, are held accountable for the piss-poor performance that we saw. That was not even a good game. That's like what happens if an NFL team decided to play a college team. Let's go put the Steelers up against Clemson and see how that goes. Oh, it's going to happen 47-10. Man, we got a long way to go, and this rebuild is just starting. I don't even think we are in phase 1 of the rebuild, and that is something that I'm not really ready to accept. But man, it's creeping up in the back of my head, because if he finally is retained, hey, Dave's going to be our coach next year, then fine. Next season is the official phase 1 of the rebuild. This was all just trying to make up for last year's failures, and by failures I mean the veto of CJ Stroud for Bryce Young. So Dave, it's not your quarterback. Maybe it's time to look somewhere else. I just don't know. I feel like you have to play Bryce every game this year. He would end up with over 34 games, I think, 35 games played in the NFL. And if he can't put it together in that amount of time, I'm not really sure what else you can do. But this guy's better have some answers, man. Better have some answers.
Dave, when you say that these guys haven't played a lot of football together, and then you made the decision to only have the starters play that first series, when you look back at that decision, I know you haven't had a lot of time, but how do you process that?
Yeah, it all matters. It all counts. And so that's something we got to think about, But again, we had an opportunity today to play football. We played a lot of football, particularly on defense, played a lot of football. So we'll learn a lot from just being able to get this group together and work off each other.
What is going to happen is this roster is still in flux. Watch some moves get made based off of this one game. Who's going to get cut? I mean, the one where Rashid Shaheed burned Jaycee Horn. I mean, this is how we're starting the year at secondary. I mean, again, I will go back to it. My first three concerns were offensive line, pass rush, and secondary, and all three of them were issues. Because, again, I was giving Bryce Young a pass. I was like, we're not even going to talk about him. Let's focus on things that are not immediately the quarterback. And, man, if all three didn't come true, this is a tough time to be a Panthers fan. It truly is. And there's going to be a lot of people hopping off this bandwagon, but these are the times that I signed up for. I signed up for the suck years. I signed up for the bad years. I signed up for the years where I'm just like, what are we doing? Because one day when we win a championship, it'll be all worth it. Just how I feel about my Charlotte Hornets, about my Duke Blue Devils, and so much more. So I'm in. I'm never going to jump off this train, even though I am very critical of the team, because I just think that the owner is the issue. It's not Dave Canales. To be honest, Dave Canales shouldn't even be here. We should have given Frank Reich at least 2 years. If you wanted to fire him after this season with nothing happening, that's fine. But he also should have been able to hire coaches that made it more aligned instead of being told to hire coaches outside of his circle. So if this thing was actually handled right by the owner, we probably don't even end up with Reich, to be honest. We probably end up with Wilkes. You know, Wilkes goes out there and probably doesn't get Bryce Young, probably goes and gets Stroud or AR, and then we end up rolling with that. So all of these problems right now could be boiled down to one man and one man only, and it is not him. It is David Tepper. Period. End of story.
What, if any, positives can you find in Bryce's performance?
Just the pre-snap operation, you know, that was kind of my biggest concern, and I thought we did a really good job. We had one delay a game, I think. We were pretty close and up against the clock there a few times, but I think from that standpoint, you know, gives us a chance with a good starting point to be able to have success in our plays.
Could you walk us through their first touchdown and then the ensuing interception by Bryce and what that meant to fall in that big of a hole in this building right away?
When it's early, you know, I ask the guys, never pass judgment on the outcome of a game based on what happens at the beginning. And so when stuff like that happens early, you're just like, you know what, this is adversity. We have to rise up. Defense held them to a field goal after that interception. So in that regard, you know, I was just kind of like, didn't feel like a precursor of things to come. It just felt like, hey, this is an isolated incident. They had some nice plays. You know, we just had an overthrow on the throw to Diontae there, and then you move on and you just keep playing football.
I just don't feel like I can give credit to Bryce Young for doing anything. Arguably, he was the worst quarterback in the NFL. It's probably a tie between him, Daniel Jones, and Deshaun Watson, who all put up stinkers. But then we look at another guy like Will Levis, who hasn't gotten anywhere near the starts that Bryce has gotten, and he looks bad. But hey, he's got an excuse. Caleb Williams looked mid, but hey, he at least made a win happen, and they didn't get blown out because the defense kind of was working on all cylinders. They weren't the ones trading away the 25-year-old pass rusher. They were the ones trying to find the 25-year-old pass rusher. So I think this just shows the dichotomy of the good organizations and the Panthers. There are so many decisions that we messed up on. Again, I will continue to say that we shouldn't have Xavier Legette. We should absolutely have Jackson Powers-Johnson, or any center for that matter, rather than Austin Corbett. We could have saved money in free agency by not having to go out and get somebody. Corbs could have continued to play guard, and everything would have been fine. But nope, we need to go get this South Carolina guy. We need to go get this guy that Dan Morgan thinks is going to be a great linebacker, Trevin Wallace. We need to go out and get an injured running back. We need to go out and get a receiving tight end for a blocking scheme. We made a lot of decisions hoping that they were going to flesh out into something more, but that was assuming that David Tepper wasn't going to axe you, dude. You need to be focused on what is immediately in front of you, and that is David Tepper's axe waiting like this for you to come down. I hope it's more than 11 games. Obviously, I hope we continue to see Dave Canales, but this could turn into a Jerry Jones, David Tepper situation where Tepper goes, hey, all of our GMs have been bad. I'm going to keep Canales, but I'm the GM. I'm going to make the picks and blah, blah, blah. Then I don't want to hear anything from Carolina Panthers fans. Then literally all of my assumptions have been right. And of course, won't get a thanks. But neither will this guy when he fixes it. If he fixes it. And again, if Tepper gives him the time to fix it.
How do you process this and not get overwhelmed with all the maybe things that you see that need to be fixed?
Yeah, just for me, thinking about it, a loss is a loss. And the nature of the loss, it matters. It's a factor. We look at it, but whether it was by 3 points or as much as it was today, those, you have to just count them as a loss and then move forward to the next challenge, move forward to growing from the things that we see on film. And that was the message I gave to the team. I said, hey, look, this in weeks from now, it's not going to matter what the score was. We lost. Let's go to the truth of it and let's move on, so that it doesn't have that carryover effect,
Dave,
Do you want the guys to lie to themselves essentially? Because that wasn't a loss. That was a dastardly bad loss.
Dastardly?
That is a one for the records book loss. If you end up becoming a winning coach and winning a Super Bowl one day, that game will be on the beginning of your highlights of, man, it couldn't have started any worse. So don't just say that this is some other game. This is a rival first game with a former number 1 pick at quarterback, and now this life changer of Diontae Johnson and Xavier Legette. Of course, Jonathan Mingo didn't show up either, but nobody on this offense showed up. To be honest, there was 2 or 3 guys on the offensive line that looked decent. Both tackles looked overwhelmed. Both guards looked good, and then the center was very mid at best. But really, he should have been in the initial category with the tackles. So we are not ready to win any games this year. If we end up going 0-17, I'm going to be super mad. But that'll secure a number 1 pick, and hopefully we do something good with it. But I don't see this 10-win season that all these fans saw before this. So maybe you guys can enlighten me with all this optimism that you guys seem to have.
I know the turnovers put them in pretty good position on offense, but for them to score on their first 9 possessions, what can you say about the defensive performance?
We got a lot to figure out. We got a lot to work on. Again, can't speak specifically to anything. We got to get to the film, see the breakdowns of those different runs and the different actions that got out there.
A lot of these guys have experience in the system, though, and it kind of felt like there was a lot of communication errors, especially in the secondary.
Yeah, and that's something that I was really looking forward to and hoping it came alive, and I still believe it will. When you have that many guys who have played a lot of football in this scheme, they'll figure it out. We'll get back to the film tomorrow. Everybody will be hard on themselves. We'll all take our measure of responsibility for, what was my approach like offensively to not put us in situations, to where we had to wait so many drives to get our first completion. How can we help the whole situation and system better to find a way to get the ball to our playmakers?
How do you pour into Bryce after a performance like this to prevent him from maybe lingering on it too long?
Yeah, just make it about the basics and just look at each play as isolated incidents. Look at the play. What was the breakdown? Was it timing? Was it footwork? Was it protection? There's a lot of factors that go in, and I think that if you can be objective about looking at the breakdown of the play itself, then it allows you to improve. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Dave, on that very first play, then you obviously were trying to get him started early. Did you think Diontae was he open when you saw that on the replay?
I thought he had good space. I got to watch the film. I thought he had good space. It looked like a high throw. Post safety was sitting there kind of in position for it. But Diontae had press. I thought he did a good job of separating there. So it was just a matter of me to you factor, get that ball to him in that space.
Interesting, he is finally assigning blame to not only himself by saying maybe it was my play calling, but he's giving blame without actually saying the name, so we need to say it here. Bryce Young overthrew that ball, and that's kind of all we got to deal with. It was Bryce's fault, period. This game was a failure on not only the offensive coach, the head coach, and Bryce Young. But again, I'm going to continue to give all of the blame pie to David Tepper because we are in this situation because of him. Nobody else. Bryce didn't draft this roster. Dave Canales didn't draft this roster. Dan Morgan didn't draft this roster. Frank Reich. It was Scott Fitterer. It was David Tepper. Now, obviously, we still got Scott Fitterer's son in here in Dan Morgan, which is why I think he needs to go as well, and why I was so critical of our team not even interviewing Adam Peters, the now Commanders GM, because he was the right pick for GM for a long-term build. But instead, we went with an in-house of the former regime that put us in this situation. That is a David Tepper decision and nobody else's.
On their first touchdown, Jaycee was looking at Fuller as though he was expecting deep middle help.
I don't know. I'll have to look at the film.
What did you see in real time?
Yeah, just saw a deep ball get out, so I got to look at what the call was, what the adjustment was. But again, I don't want to speak specifically to anything I haven't watched.
From an operation standpoint, just from coaching staff and communication, how did you feel that one?
That was excellent. We were up against it. We had so much adversity, and the ball getting put in defensive territory, and the offense getting into longer situations, which can kill drives. And there was a lot of good information passed along, and so I felt really good about that part of it. But again, it comes down to execution, and it comes down to game plan. Did we help guys enough? Try to get access.
Dave, what would you say to Panthers fans who were super excited, watch this first game and go, oh no, same old Panthers?
It's a long journey. It's a long journey to become us. I truly believe that. I knew that whether we started 4-0 or 0-4, whatever that is, what I knew is this is going to take a long time to become us. And I can't help you've known me a little bit now, but I just can't help but know that you have to have adversity to become who you're going to be. For guys to pull together, to show their character the way they did today in a really tough loss, and call it what it is. Again, it's one loss. Now we have a chance to come back, to tighten things up, and to work together.
Is that enough for Panthers fans, though? To be honest, man, they want blood. I put out a short, and if you haven't seen it, make sure you do. I'll make sure to link it in the description. But to be honest, we are just at a loss. We've lost Derrick Brown now. Bryce looks suboptimal. The offensive line, again, looked decent. I really give credit to the guards. Of course, they're two of the highest paid guards in the league, but still. Overall, this team needs some sort of change, and I feel like that change was really squandered with the draft decisions. I do believe that a lot of people in this draft will no longer be on the Carolina Panthers in a second contract. And if they are not what we thought they were. The only person that I could really see breaking out into something crazy would be, again, be Sanders or Brooks. But that's assuming we can actually keep Sanders past that contract. He'll be up for a second contract at 24, I believe. 25? 24. It's only a 4-year contract. So, yeah, 24 going on 25. And are we going to then pay him at that time probably $20-25 million to be a running back for our team? No, because we wouldn't even pay Christian McCaffrey then. So I don't really see this. I see us restarting this cycle. Now, what happens if we're going from this? Hey, man, we're just going to do the opposite. This is the end of the Carolina Panthers. We'll go, 17-ish, 2017? Now our quarterback isn't able to hold water. Instead of it being Cam Newton, it's Bryce Young. Our running back at that time, hopefully, it's Jonathan Brooks out there trucking, doing such a great job. But of course, a contract is coming up, and we're not sure if we're going to pay him. And what else happened around that time? We had a really solid wide receiver. That could be Xavier Legette, or it could be somebody else like a Jalen Coker, turning into a DJ Moore style piece for this team. Of course, we've got Derrick Brown. We already know who that comparison is. But I could see this being something where we go, we're trading Jonathan Brooks, we're trading this player, we're doing this, and then we're right back in the full-on cycle of another, 5th or 6th rebuild in a row at that point. That's not what I want. I want this guy, the guy that I did a 9-part breakdown on, the guy that I know so much about because I was so excited for him to come to our team after I predicted him on December 9th of last year. Full month and a half or more, it's a month and 20 days, before he was actually hired. I would love to see you succeed in this, but I don't know if David Tepper will ever get out of your way. And I apologize that I keep going back to that well, but that's the truth. This organization cannot get better until he truly leaves the organization alone or sells this team. We will continue to be a mid to bottom feeder with this man running it. Not Dave, I mean Tepper. So, I'm not excited. I felt a little odd being the pessimist in another year. Another one where people are calling me out saying I don't know ball, saying I don't know this team, and I'm not a fan because I'm being so pessimistic. But I just see the writing on the walls. We're going to continue to go down this path until something is done about David Tepper. So if you want to, you can always sign the change.org petition that will be in every description moving forwards, which is going to be asking David Tepper to get rid of the team. So I'm just going to continue to move forwards. Hopefully Dave can give us some more revitalized juices ahead of the second game against the Chargers. It's going to be an interesting one, and hopefully this is a dub, because they were able to beat the Raiders 22-10, but they didn't really need Herbert to play that great to do that. They ran the ball, and now with Derrick Brown gone, that might be a problem. That might be a real problem. So
You're taking Bryce out earlier than you did, just from a standpoint of shell shock type of deal.
I did. I thought about getting Andy in the drive before, but I was really just trying to get one more shot at, can we just get our rhythm? Can we get some completions? When it didn't happen, it was very obvious at that point with the score. And so I probably could have gotten him out there a drive earlier.
All right, everybody good?
Good?
How did you make out injury-wise?
Oh,
he tried to get out of Dodge real quick. We're only 7.5 minutes into an only 9.5 minute press conference. He's only done one other one this short, and it was after one of the preseason games where they got demolished and Bryce looked terrible. He's trying to run away from questions because he doesn't know how to answer them without using the owner's name. I'm sorry, that's just my tinfoil hat theory.
injury-wise, we had a couple of guys come out and go back in, so they'll all be evaluated. Damian Lewis out then back in. Xavier Leggett out back in. Anybody else, Bruce? Yeah. So it's somber. I think that this is a group that really takes a lot of pride. They have high hopes for what we're going to become. And what I'm trying to capitalize on is just the way they're all connected in there. And I think that this is a group that there isn't a lot of people throwing helmets around. There isn't people that are pointing fingers and doing this and that. They all to a man are like, I got to be better. I got to be better for you in all phases. And that was kind of an ownership moment for the group, So that's generally the mood.
How do we go from these guys aren't throwing helmets to I want dogs? I'm sorry. When I talk about dogs in football, those are the dudes that are throwing their helmets, the dudes that are angry after every game. And you're telling me this roster is full of dogs? Yeah, man, let's just walk in there. Let's just be super calm like our quarterback who doesn't show emotion, except when he almost cries in the middle of a press conference. Come on, man. We need real dogs in here. We need dudes that want to go out there and mess people up, want to go out there and succeed at the highest level, not guys that are sitting at the end of it going, man, it's on me. I got to be better, man. That is coach speak given to players, and I absolutely hate it.
This is the last a long time for us to become us.
Yeah.
But you also, it's only one game. So, I mean,
Yeah.
what's in between there to get better? I mean, what is a long time when you say that?
I don't know. What I know is that this is a journey, and I can't put any number of games on it, and I just know that we will capture moments in games and it'll feel like Panthers football. When we're playing tough on defense, we're playing our assignments. It's when we're all in position working together, when the flow of our offense is going and we have good tempo, we're getting into our plays and different things like that. I have a picture and a vision in my mind, and so do the players. We all have this shared vision of what we can become. And until we feel those drives, we know we're not there yet. And so we're going to keep heading in that direction and believe that it's going to happen. It'll be possible.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Dave Canales. I know I've been critical today. And of course, thank you to the Carolina Panthers for putting out this press conference. Now, obviously, the breakdown has been a little bit angrier than normal, but I think if you're a Carolina Panthers fan, that is okay after this shellacking that we took against our rival, the New Orleans Saints. 47-10 is a Madden score. If he says that he sees it and all the players see where I'm looking at the future and that's where the promised land is, man, I don't know how to tell you this, but I don't think you're going to be able to get there. I don't think you're going to get 40 years walking in the desert, my guy. You're going to get about 11 games. And I've continued to say that. I think that Dave needs 6 wins. We need to come out here and show that our offense is capable against the Chargers. And if it looks subpar, I would absolutely expect Dave Canales to be on the hot seat in week 2. to be honest, the seat's already, got a light under it, so it's getting there. But if we come out and get blown out by this Chargers team, boy, it is going to be a tough week for Dave Canales. But regardless, I'm still going to continue to support him. I told him when he came here, I would be here with open arms. I just have to be honest about the situation that is in front of us. You came here because you wanted this breakdown. You come to these, and if you made it this far, I just want to say I thank you. But overall, you do it because you want me to be honest with you. I'm not here to blow smoke or sunshine, as some famous casters have said. I'm just here to, be a Carolina Panthers fan that comes on and talks sports. So make sure you subscribe to Roll Coverage where you can get more breakdowns like this, because you can only get them in one place, right here, Roll Coverage, the home of the press conference breakdown. My name is Nick, the host. Hopefully you have a great rest of the day. And please, if you can, pray for my Carolina Panthers. Peace.